After taking over the UFC, Paramount has now scooped in and taken over Warner Brothers seemingly. In a crazy $100 billion deal, it seems like Warner Brothers is about to be bought out by Paramount. The Trump administration's push for this seemingly worked, even after Trump said he would no longer be involved in these talks. Now, Paramount is expected to own the assets and rights to TNT, CBS, CNN, MTV, TCM, Showtime, Adult Swim, DC Studios, Paramount, all this stuff. They own a lot of stuff now, guys. The question needs to be asked, is this good or bad? Is this better than if Netflix was to buy Warner Bros.? A lot of people think so, and a lot of people say, this is probably the worst of the two evils. I wasn't a fan of either Netflix or Paramount buying Warner Bros. I always fear one thing, and that is the contentification of cinema. I'm a cinema guy. I'm a movie guy. I love movies. And what Netflix was going to do to movies, and what it had been doing to cinema within a decade, was turning it into content, basically. Within the writing, within the production, with the cameras you're supposed to use, with the certain things you're supposed to say in exposition to account for people's attention spans, filming things so that you know that they're going to be seen on a cell phone, all the stuff that really interferes with the cinema aspect of things. This could be seen in the quality of slop that Netflix has been pumping out. It's no longer like it was in 2015, in 2016, 2017, where Netflix was at its peak. But even more than that, I hate the idea of one big name owning everything. The corporatization of everything we know, turning everything that means something into nothing. That's what that means, essentially, if we're really getting down to the thick of it. So now, with Paramount doing this, they don't just own cinema coming out of Warner Brothers. They own cinema, they own a lot of media outlets, news outlets. They own effectively what people will see as truth, what will be projected to people, what will be reported. This could be a problem. I don't like this. I have personal reasons, moral reasons, I would say, to use a cringe term in this context, as to why I'm not a fan of Paramount in particular having all this control. I need to be very, very careful about how I get into it, because you could be demonetized if you mention certain things that they have ties to, okay? Now, I don't have my lens in today. I'm dead right today. Between being burnt out and tired, an impending war with Iran with multiple strikes happening, it's just and then the Epstein files, my head is convulsing. Stick with me here, right? But let's be fair. I want to look at the pros and the cons of this deal and what we can expect as viewers of the new content that's going to be pumped out, right? Combining a studio and having a deal of this magnitude means that you can negotiate better with theater chains. You have more leverage on them now. You can expand theatrical windows. You can also minimize them. If there's an issue of licensing content, you have leverage here, so there's not issues with that. Talent agencies, because you have bigger budgets, and international distributors. You just have more leverage when it comes to negotiations, and you can make things happen quicker. One of the big things that people had a problem with was Netflix didn't care about theatrical runs. They said, oh, we're going to have a 17-day theatrical run, but streaming is where it's going to be at. Streaming, cinema will not be impacted if the theatrical run is cut. We don't like that. We know that's BS, and we know the CEO was BSing hard when he said that. The other thing is you're going to have bigger budgets for more ambitious projects, because again, a deal with this magnitude and how much money Paramount is backing this with, and all the resources they have at their disposal, yeah, if there are huge films, for example, that they want to make, and there's issues with paying actors and actresses stuff, right, because we have the issue of inflated budgets now, well, you can account for that with more money, obviously. There are issues with this too, don't get me wrong, but still. And I don't know if this is true, but the thought logic is, if one company is owning all these different properties, you don't have multiple streaming platforms now that you have to get now. You don't have to have a Crave account, and a Stars account, or whatever it is, a Max account, all this other stuff, right? Because most of it goes under one name now, I would assume that means you have to pay less for multiple subscriptions, and you just may have to pay more for the one. So yes, your one subscription is more expensive, but you don't have to do all this dilly-dallying with all these 50 different subscriptions that you have to have nowadays, right? And there's also the identity politics aspect of this. A lot of people probably are happy about this because a lot of people hate the woke problem. I don't like using that term because the way it's used now in film culture, everything can be termed as woke. People have a problem with forced identity politics, an agenda being placed at the cost of proper storytelling. And Netflix did have a lot of that. To be fair, did have a lot of that. Maybe Paramount is an answer for that, because Paramount didn't have that as much, and Paramount is more right-wing leaning anyways now, with its top-down hierarchy in terms of the people who are there and their ties to Trump. So people might like that. That's not to say that there's not going to be any political propaganda at all, because there probably will be, of some sort. And we're going to get to exactly what I'm talking about there. I would doubt it a lot if someone was to say to me, well, Zafy, now we don't have political propaganda in our films. I think these are the kinds of people who don't like a kind of political propaganda, but they are not accounting for who owns the company of Paramount and the ties that they have. If you know, you know. We're going to get into it. And then we have a bunch of people saying, oh, because now Paramount has this and they have authority, we no longer have the leadership we did before, they can bring back projects that were shelved and discarded, like the Snyderverse. SNYDER fans have been wanting this. They thought that if Warner Brothers would get bought, Gunn's universe would be put to the side, or we would have the Snyderverse come in as well. It's been confirmed that Gunn is sticking around. He's their guy for DC. And I think Zack Snyder in an interview said, we're working on a comic book run and an animated feature. So Snyder fans can do what they will with that. Here are the cons. There are a lot of cons, in my opinion. Because you have only 4 to 5 major studios in charge. A film, basically. Disney, Universal, Sony, and Paramount, plus WB. Because you have less competition, you have less innovation. You have a lot of things that are branded the same. You have a lot of the same voices and minds creatively around the same projects. Everything will start to feel the same. Quality, in my opinion, when it comes to streaming in general, will go down. Look at all the stuff you're about to get if you're Paramount. Look at these IPs. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, DC. That's a lot of stuff that you could make better, potentially. Although I'm not completely sold on the idea of Paramount being 100% quality better. I'm skeptical of that. I don't think they've proven enough to me that it's an automatic win in the quality department in terms of storytelling. And again, when most of the time, and this is a historical thing, large media consolidation when it comes to stuff like this equals worse content. With competition, you have a differentiation in voices, in creative inputs, right? But if you have one corporation owning everything, it's going to be like a factory churn. It's going to be like a pipeline of just constant products being pumped out. You could say that that was the case going into this anyways, and streaming itself was the death of anything quality-wise, but still. And we've already seen what happens with, what was his name, Avslov or whatever, the guy who was the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. We've seen what happens when something like this occurs. Warner Brothers under Zaslav canceled Batgirl, canceled Coyote, removed dozens of HBO Max shows permanently, canceled DC projects mid-development. This is what happens when you have large, big names controlling everything and having different visions than what the creatives had. You have stuff like this happening. And then you have the debt that Paramount will incur now as a result of buying Warner Brothers. And what happens when debt comes into the picture? You have stuff like tax optimization, layoffs, which David Ellison has already admitted is happening. And multiple shelved films. Your favorite franchise could have some movies shelved as a result of this. Who knows? You're going to have corporate mandates across all franchises. Who knows what this will look like under Paramount? Again, quality of content-wise, Paramount, they're right. I like Tulsa King. There's some shows I've liked from them. You know, there is also the Halo stuff too, the Halo show, right? So you never know. I feel like the problem with quality of content is the same across these streaming platforms. There are some that are really good and some that are really bad. The most consistent one I've seen is Apple TV. Apple TV has consistent bangers, in my opinion. I don't know what corporate mandates look like for Paramount. For Netflix, they were pretty bad. For Paramount, I don't know. You have the issue of this being an oligopoly. Like, again, when you have one big name owning everything, you're going to have all the issues that arise from that. And then we have the elephant in the room in terms of who owns the company. He has ties to Trump, yeah? So there's a lot of people online worried about this. That because this is so oriented in that direction, because there's such a heavy bias in that direction, that we're going to have the opposite effect now, where there's going to be certain kinds of political agendas placed into film. Like maybe creators and writers and directors who have inputs, maybe they're not going to get what they want because there's going to be corporate mandates saying you're not allowed to have that specific message in this film. Whether it's woke or not, you're not allowed to have it. And some could say, yeah, thank God, we're done with all this politics shit. You can make an argument that every good movie is political. Politics has been a thing in movies for a while now. It all comes down to the politics you like versus the politics you don't like. So this is a double-edged sword. We're removing one set of politics and then replacing it with another, okay? But that itself is not even a big deal to me. I'm not butthurt over that. There's a bigger issue, in my opinion. I gotta be very careful here. Because you can't speak about this stuff without getting demonetized now. It's been proven. So there's a certain conflict happening overseas, yeah? And it's had large straining effects over Hollywood. Paramount Skydance, under the leadership of David Ellison, has reportedly created an internal blacklist or list of talent that the studio will no longer work with, and this is off the basis of targeted individuals. Actors and filmmakers deemed to be overly anti-Semitic or pro-Gaza. Reports indicate that this includes, but is not limited to, individuals who have expressed strong pro-Palestine views or have been critical of Israel. There's a lot of actors who are doing that now. This guy is an avid supporter of Israel. His father has funded and sent money to the IDF. You know, like it's not... This is not a mystery. This is a fact. Why could this be a bad thing? I just know. And look, I know there's a contingent of people who are like, oh, why are we talking about this? Come on, man. No one cares. We want to watch movies. Why are we bringing this stuff up? Look, screw off then. You don't need to care about that. I care about it personally, and I think people should too. Because truth itself and the kind of content we watch will be affected by this. I think there's going to be a lot of propaganda on that side. Coming from that side. And there's just not a lot of people who support that side. And what they're doing. And what they're actively provoking right now. How do I know that there's going to be propaganda? Because it's already happening with his father, who owns TikTok. CEO David Ellison is relying largely on the financial backing of his father, Larry Ellison, the co-founder of software giant Oracle, the lead investor in TikTok, and one of the richest people on the planet. You know, this guy has single-handedly made TikTok a propaganda machine for that country. And you know how you know this? Is because that country has said it. The leader of that country said it with their own words on camera. He said that this app, who's run by these two who support that country, needs to be used for a specific purpose. TikTok is going to be used to push content that is pro this country and suppress content that isn't, so that the young people, and TikTok specifically, can be brainwashed effectively into supporting that country and what it's actively doing right now. You know this is a fact, right? He said this with his own words. You think that that's not going to have any effect on Paramount and the stuff that they buy too? Are you insane? I think it's going to have a lot of effect. We know that Hollywood itself already does a lot of propaganda for them, because we know there's a lot of people in Hollywood that are tied to this. Okay, I'm not going to say how or why. I'm just saying it's a truth. It's the truth. So can you imagine this with corporate backing now, top down from Ellison and his father? It's an issue of the ideas that are allowed to be spread through film. And if you thought the propaganda was bad before, I'm not convinced that it ain't gonna be any better under Paramount, just in a different way. So if you were very concerned with one kind of politics, and you're happy that we're away from that now, good for you. But there's a large amount of people who are kind of not a fan of what this is and what's happening in the world right now, and they're about to, I just have a bad feeling that they're about to be met with the impact of that, and their increasing influence on everything in the world, by the way. Not only does this, I can't even get into it, man. All I'm gonna say is there's an increase. I'm gonna get my picture off him, okay? I'm gonna get this picture on me now, because I feel like I don't trust YouTube, right? I feel like there's this one country out there who clearly, due to lobbying in America and the ties that they have to various old money families here, they clearly want to have crazy control over everything. Public opinion. If you guys have heard of the encampments in certain universities in America that were obstructed and destroyed by billionaires that were involved here, the same thing is going to happen on a cinema level, on a media level. It's happening as we speak. If you are critical of what that country does, if you have messages that are in support of other things, they will silence you. It's what they do. So they're going to do it in film. They're going to do it in media. They're going to do it in the news. They've been doing it in the news for a while now. That's what they do. They want to literally take over everything. We're seeing it unfold before our very eyes. And I'm just very unhappy that it's come into the industry, the field that I love so much, which is movies. It sucks because everything that I love is being taken over by this elite corporate need to swallow up everything, while actively having special interests with other countries that I personally can't get on board with, and neither can a lot of people. I know I'm not just speaking for myself. I'm only doing that right now. I'm saying that I am. It's my personal opinion. I'm saying this even though I know a lot of people agree with me, because I'm trying to be safe here on YouTube. So those are my thoughts on that, man. I don't see a lot of lights at the end of the tunnel when it comes to this deal. And I thought we were screwed either way, whether it be Netflix or this, for different reasons. So those are my thoughts on that. I'm tired. I can't be bothered with this, man. Every time I just look around, I just see that the world is just getting infinitely just more and more corporatized, propagandized, politicized. It's just, I'm done. I'm too tired. See ya. Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are on a mission to take over Hollywood. But the army must keep growing. If you want to suggest video topics to me, or talk about your favorite movies or favorite film theories in a community with like-minded individuals, join the Zafy Discord now. Link is in the description and the comment section as well. Join us. This movement is just beginning. We're taking over Hollywood, one coke line at a time.